Today, we are talking about something very important that many people hear about but don't fully understand. What is it? The Attorney General or AG. So, what does that really mean? The Attorney General is the top lawyer of the state. This is the person responsible for making sure the law is followed, protecting people's rights, and holding criminals and even the government accountable. In simple words, the AG stands between the law and the people to make sure justice is done. Today, I'm honored to have Mr. Michael Gates, the Huntington Beach City Attorney, with me on the show. Mr. Gates is running for the position of California Attorney General. Welcome, Mr. Gates.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming today. Okay, before we talk politics, who is Michael Gates as a person?
Yeah, so I have been married almost 30 years. I have 5 beautiful children and 4 beautiful grandchildren. I've lived in Huntington Beach my whole life, so I've been a California resident nearly my entire life. I am a lawyer, so I worked in the private practice for a number of years. I became a trial attorney. I became a partner at that law firm, and then in 2014, I decided to run for elected office. The city attorney of Huntington Beach is an elected office, so I ran for that office. I was elected in 2014, reelected in 2018, reelected in 2022. And then in 2025, I resigned from that post in the middle of my term to take a job with the administration back in Washington, D.C. I worked there for a year, and then I resigned from that position to come back to California to run for Attorney General. So I am a family man. I'm an experienced lawyer. I've actually tried many multi-million-dollar cases at trial. I have argued in many courts myself. I've been at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I have argued in many federal district courts. I am actually a real lawyer, unlike the current Attorney General, Rob Bonta, who is not a real lawyer. He's a career politician, and we can tell by the lawlessness that we see in California. But I'm even admitted to the United States Supreme Court bar. So if I had to go and argue a case tomorrow back in Washington, D.C. at the United States Supreme Court, I am admitted, I'm certified, and I could go argue a case. So I'm an experienced attorney. Like I said, I've done many multi-million-dollar cases at trial. I have a winning record. When I was the city attorney of Huntington Beach, I reduced crime in the city by double digits by being tough on crime. And now Huntington Beach is in the top 10 safest cities in the state of California out of nearly 500 cities. So it's a very, very, very safe city because I was very, very tough on crime there. So I've done a lot of good work. I have a lot of good experience to be the next Attorney General.
Yeah, and this is what we need.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you the normal question I ask for all my guests. Why are you running for this position?
So I could do any number of things. I could go back to private practice. I could spend more time with my family, obviously. But I know right here, right now in California, that everyday Californians are ready for a change. And we know this because if we look at the polling, 65% of respondents to the polls say that California is headed in the wrong direction. 65% is very, very high. That means Democrats, independents, and Republicans alike agree that we need new leadership in government, new leadership in Sacramento. And based on my experience as city attorney of Huntington Beach and all the great things that we did in Huntington Beach, I know that I have the experience and the credentials to go to Sacramento and return California to a law and order state. When I go to Sacramento, I'm not going to be making friends. I'm probably going to make some enemies because I'm going to be very tough on the law, and we're going to return California to a law and order state.
Families are struggling in California. What role does the Attorney General play in protecting them?
Yeah. So the Attorney General in California has a lot of independent authority, meaning there's a lot of good work that I could do to return California to a law and order state and to protect families. And I don't need the permission of the governor, and I don't need the legislature. And the legislature cannot interfere with my role as Attorney General. Basically, as the top law enforcement officer in the state of California, I have purview over all 58 counties. There are 58 counties in the state. That means I have purview over all 58 district attorneys and all 58 sheriffs. So when I go to Sacramento, I'm not just going to go to some ivory tower in Sacramento and be out of touch with everyday Californians. I'm literally going to be working with the 58 district attorneys and the 58 sheriffs throughout the state of California and their departments to be tough on crime, to return California to, like I said, a law and order state. And what that means is I'm going to enforce Prop 36 on day one with or without funding. We're going to work with our prosecutors throughout the state of California. My view is if a prosecutor does not have a zero crimes agenda in their jurisdiction, meaning that they're not going to be aggressive on prosecuting crime and try to get the crime rates down to zero in their jurisdiction, they're simply not doing their job. And so I'm going to be giving direction to all district attorneys throughout the state and all of their departments that all of their prosecutors better get their feet off of the desk. They better sit up, roll up their sleeves, and actually get tough on crime again. We're going to make crime illegal again. And we can reduce crime by double digits throughout the state of California, just like I did in Huntington Beach. Remember, I said that I was tough on crime in Huntington Beach, and we reduced crime by double digits. So the numbers dropped dramatically. The crime numbers dropped dramatically in Huntington Beach. I want that for every city in the state of California. And when our communities are safe, when violent criminals are off of our streets, when we get homeless off of our streets by enforcing the law, our neighborhoods are safe again. Our communities are safe again. Our business districts are safe again. And so families are safe, communities are safe, and businesses can prosper.
Okay. So what is Prop 36 about?
What is
Proposition 36?
36? So that was basically the proposition that was passed in 2024, by a large margin. So Californians wanted to restore penalties to crime. So we saw in 2014, with the passage of Prop 47 and 57, that tough crime laws were basically nullified. I mean, effectively, crime was made legal by virtue of the passage of Prop 47 and 57. What Prop 36 attempts to do is restore some of the criminal penalties related to drug-related crimes, repeat offenders, and things like that. And right now, Sacramento is basically saying, Rob Bonta is basically saying that we can't enforce Prop 36. Even though the voters passed it, we can't enforce Prop 36 because we don't have funding. But to me, that's nonsense. Prop 36 is the law of the land. The voters passed it by a wide margin in 2024. And so I am going to enforce Prop 36. We are going to add those penalties and enforce those penalties for drug-related crimes and repeat offenders, the quality of life crimes that we see. So the smash and grabs, the car thefts, the auto thefts, all of these things, we're going to go after those crimes aggressively, and we're going to make our streets safe again.
Sounds great. So if you look at California today, what is broken and what would you fix first?
So generally speaking, we are a very lawless state. We're very lawless. We don't respect the law. We don't have an attorney general who enforces the law. We are lawless. And it's creating a lot of disorder in our society. We see this by, the attorney general, for instance, not enforcing Prop 36, right? He doesn't have a choice, but he's exercising a choice to not enforce Prop 36. We are lawless, and when I'm the attorney general, like I said, we're going to uphold and defend the law, and we're going to return California to a law and order state. Rob Bonta was put into office in 2021 when the seat was vacated when Becerra went on to work for the Biden administration. So there was an open seat in the attorney general's office in 2021. Newsom appointed Bonta to fill that seat, but Bonta was not a real lawyer. He had a law degree, but he was a career politician. He had spent 10 years in the legislature before being appointed as the attorney general. When he was installed by Newsom in 2021, he was installed to run interference on truth, to run interference on justice, and to run interference on criminal justice and criminal enforcement of law. He's been there ever since, covering for corruption. And we see this now with the nearly $500 billion that we're seeing in waste, fraud, and abuse in California. That $500 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse, that's our taxpayer money. And that's been lost at the hands of Sacramento. And guess what? That amount, nearly $500 billion, amassed over 5 years, the same exact time that Bonta has been in office. And he has never done an investigation. He has never asked questions. He literally was put there to run interference and to cover for corruption. And we see it now in the 500 billion. So when I'm in office on day one, we are going to attack the corruption no matter where it is, and we're going to hold people accountable. People are going to go to jail.
So, do you think current policies are pushing people out of the state?
Oh, absolutely. We have seen a dramatic reduction in the state's population. People are leaving the state in droves. There's an estimated $3 trillion that has left the state because big companies and wealthy people are leaving the state. An estimated $3 trillion just since last year during 2025. So $2 trillion last year and $1 trillion already this year. So it's a lot of money leaving the state, a lot of business, a lot of people. They say that there's a California resident leaving the state every minute and 44 seconds because of the conditions in California. And everybody loves California, but nobody likes living here right now because we've got high gas, high taxes. We have the high gas prices, the high taxes. We have high homeless. We have, now they're trying to tax every mile that we drive, right? So there's just craziness coming out of Sacramento. There's incompetence in our leadership in Sacramento, and that's why people are leaving California. When I'm Attorney General and we return California to a law and order state, we are going to have people want to stay and, frankly, want to return to California.
Sounds good. So now California has a large immigrant population. With the current administration's policies, many immigrants are afraid. So, what would you say to immigrant families who feel uncertain or afraid?
Right. So, as the top law enforcement officer in the state of California, I need to make sure that we comply with all federal laws and we enforce all state laws. And my focus is going to be, my highest priority is going to be to protect our communities and our neighborhoods by getting violent criminals out of our neighborhoods. The most needy neighborhoods are the ones that are plagued the most by high crime rates, by violent crime rates, high violent criminal rates. And so what we need to do, what I am going to do, is I am going to be tough on crime. We're going to get the violent criminals off of the street. And that includes, in certain cases, allowing the federal government to come in and to enforce the federal immigration laws, because those violent criminals that are subject to ICE detainers, they're going to be handed over and be processed by the federal agencies and in some cases deported. If you look at the Obama administration, right, before the 2017 sanctuary state law came into effect in California, if you look at the Obama administration, he deported an estimated over 8 million people from the United States. He deported over 8 million people, tens of thousands of which were violent criminals. What did his administration do? His federal agencies came into California and peacefully took possession of these violent criminals subject to ICE detainers and removed them from California peacefully and got them out of the country. We need to get back to the peaceful enforcement of all laws as well.
What is the difference now? So why all of this social media propaganda about deporting?
Yes. Well, because of the sanctuary policies, which are relatively new. In California, the sanctuary state policy is a 2017 law that went into effect in 2017. And that's brand new. That basically says that violent criminals that are subject to ICE detainers are not supposed to be held in jails any longer, but they're supposed to be released out onto the street. Well, when you release them out onto the street and then the federal immigration authorities come to try to pursue justice and to apprehend them, they're now out on the street, which is not the peaceful enforcement of all laws. It's far more peaceful for federal agents to get these individuals in the tight control of local authorities in our jail settings, so jails and prisons. So if we go back to the days before the sanctuary state law, then we actually see the peaceful enforcement of all laws, both federal and state. But now with the sanctuary state law, there isn't peaceful enforcement. And so it's going to be my job to get back to the peaceful enforcement of all laws, and that we're going to get those violent criminals off of the street, out of our neighborhoods, and into jails, and in some instances, over to federal custody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you believe California is doing enough or too much when it comes to immigration policies?
I think California's lack of cooperation and, frankly, frustration with what the federal agencies are trying to do, it's tantamount to obstruction of justice. I mean, The federal government has exclusive purview to have an immigration policy and to enforce it. That's the law. It's exclusive purview. The state has no right to have its own immigration policy and to either conflict with federal policy or discourage federal policy. That's unlawful. And like I said earlier in this interview, we live in a lawless state because Rob Bonta is allowing the state effectively to have its own immigration policy and to frustrate the federal enforcement of federal policy. That's wrong, and that has got to change.
And it's not safe for us,
It's
all
not
of
safe.
us.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about a topic that matters to every family: parental rights. Many parents today feel like they are losing their voice. So the question is, do you feel parents are losing their control over decision involving their children's?
They have been because Attorney General Rob Bonta is not enforcing the law. In fact, he's doing the opposite. He's suing parents and he's suing school boards and he's suing schools because he wants to promote and advance a very far left woke ideology. And he basically is making our children vulnerable to different dangers in the classroom, whether it's grooming for transition surgeries. You know, they're actually trying to encourage teachers and counselors to groom children in the classroom and in the schools outside the view of parents, outside the knowledge of parents. So look, we know this. Recently, Attorney General Rob Bonta, for instance, sued hospitals, including a children's hospital, to force them to perform trans surgeries on minors. It's totally crazy. He literally is forcing hospitals, including a children's hospital, to mutilate children. All of that's going to come to an end on day one when I'm Attorney General, and I'm actually going to prosecute doctors and prosecute hospitals who seek to mutilate our children. I'm going to also ensure on day one that California, all of our schools, all of our education, all of our sports programs are compliant with Title IX. So we're going to get the boys out of girls' sports. We're going to get the young men out of young women's sports. And we are going to protect our young girls up and down the state of California. So yes, California is lawless. Yes, Rob Bonta is pushing an agenda that basically harms our children and harms our young girls. I'm going to do the complete opposite. I am going to protect the most vulnerable in our society, including and especially our young girls and our young children, and I am going to defend them and protect them.
Great. So is that the role should the Attorney General play? Is that
Absolutely, absolutely, to protect the most vulnerable in our society.
so he has a word to say
Right.
in this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Against even the governor?
So against the governor, yes. So we have to comply with all law. Title IX is the federal law of the land when it comes to protecting our young girls in sports and education. That's the law of the land. So it needs to be enforced. And that's what the Attorney General is there to do. Enforce and to protect our constitutional rights.
Yes, that's amazing. So what's your message you want to deliver to our community and everyone watching us?
So I have a history, particularly with my work in Huntington Beach as the city attorney, of being a fighter for everyday Californians. I am not a career politician. I am not a professional politician. I'm not looking to do this to step up and to have some career in politics. That is absolutely not the point. I am only in this race because I believe that California can be rescued right now. It's on the brink of disaster. It's broken. We are in crisis. And we absolutely need to rescue California. And I think I'm uniquely situated with my experience and my credentials to be the one to do that. But what people need to know is I'm just a fighter. I'm an everyday fighter. I'm an everyday Californian. And I have been in the courtroom. I have been in many different courtrooms fighting for what is right, fighting for parental rights. So as Huntington Beach City Attorney, I actually sued the state of California, challenging AB 1955, which was that new law that mandates that teachers keep secrets from parents. I sued and we won. I have a reputation, whether it's election integrity issues or parental rights or state overreach or the return of taxpayer money from Sacramento back to Huntington Beach taxpayers, or fighting crime or fighting homeless. I have a history, I have a record of success on all of these things. And so I want the listeners to know that, look, they need to take a look at me as a candidate for Attorney General. We can rescue California right here, right now. I do need their help. They need to help spread the word and get the word out. I have a website that people can go to, gates4ag.com. That's Gates, the number 4ag.com. To check me out. They can find me on social media, but we've got to win this state right here, right now. If we don't win these elections right now, it may be lost.
We will lose our kids.
Yes.
We will lose our kids, not
Yes.
even the state, only the state.
Yes.
Because what's going on now, it's really crazy.
Agree.
Yeah. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
So at the end, the law is not just word on paper. It affects every family, every community, and every future. Today, we heard a different perspective and asked the questions that matter. So thank you so much, Michael, for coming today and for all your thought. And we wish you a good luck in the election.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And wait for us for a new episode from Reliable Source.